This video goes through day 2 of our trip in the San Juan Mountains, running Imogene Pass and Engineer Pass, taking a break at Animas Forks via the Alpine connector, and then wrapping an abbreviated run of the Alpine loop by taking California, Hurricane, and Corkscrew passes. We started the day in Telluride and took Imogene east to west, lunched in Ouray, then headed down to Engineer via Mineral Creek. Poughkeepsie unfortunately was closed during our visit, so we looped back via the connector through Corkscrew before heading back up to Avon to take on Holy Cross the next day. Holy Cross, that's the next video.
Day 2 of the epic Colorado San Juan Mountain Adventure. Heading toward Telluride to start Imogene and Engineer today. We're heading to the gas station, meet up with the crew, gas up, fuel up, body fuel up, all that fun stuff. So got my big pack of water in the back, help combat some of the altitude headaches I'm getting. But it's because I'm not hydrating, so I'll fix that pretty soon to speak. Alright, rock and roll. Catch you on the trails.
A few of us had stayed at the Bivvy Hostel just outside of Telluride. It was about a 20-minute drive to the gas station just west of town. Pro tip, gas up there, options in Telluride are limited and pricey. The trailhead for Imogene Pass is at the north end of town. Be very cognizant of the speed limits and pedestrian traffic in town. It's tough enough to keep up a good public image of off-roaders going. These people deal with an incredible amount of traffic each day, don't contribute to any of the bad stereotypes. Be friendly, say hello. I was able to get 4 other Jeeps to join us on this trip. Dave, one of my friends from St. Louis, was so excited to be here. He had a mishap with his rear diff right before the trip and had just picked it up from the shop the night before we left.
So you guys know, this is the trail that I've always wanted to do since I got my Jeep.
Really? Awesome.
My #1 trail.
Well, I'm honored to be taking it with you, Dave. Thank you, man.
This is the one I would have been very disappointed if Wampa wasn't here, you know?
Imogene Pass is a two-way trail. As you're seeing, there isn't a lot of room to easily pass another vehicle, so always keep an eye on the next turnout or around the next corner to manage oncoming traffic. These videos are cool, sure, but they do not do this area visual justice. Please use this video as a guide to create your own adventure and go. You can see the city of Telluride right there on the passenger side of the vehicle, but the scale and diversity of the mountain landscape is something you absolutely need to experience firsthand with friends. The trail starts off with some dirt and small rocks, moves into a forest kind of wooded zone like you're seeing here, and eventually it'll open up above the tree line on the way up to the pass itself. Take your time and take each zone in as you go through it. When it's appropriate and there's enough room on the trail, pull over just to take it in. Obviously here, you don't want to pull over here, but again, for us flatlanders, this is not something we wake up to every day. Let your eyes take in what you're experiencing. Don't rush. You can read on many trail and travel sites about Imogene Pass. Overall, it's not a hard road, really. We saw numerous street vehicles up and down the trail, but do not underestimate this trail. These ledge roads, they're real. There are real dangers. This group here, actually, funnily enough, from Minnesota originally, had pulled off and were standing there looking at this arch, this gorgeous arch we were going through. Okay, there wasn't a lot of traffic, but I wouldn't stop there if there was a lot of traffic coming along, right? Scattered along the trail, you get to see remnants and ruins of Colorado's mining past. Some of these shacks have been repurposed for things, I think, but the majority of them are just there, decomposing in nature, and being an interesting thing for your eyes and mind. I absolutely love taking these adventures, even more so when my wife and kids are along, or, in this case, when another driver's kids are along. These are core memories we're building, and I like to have fun and mess with people a little bit.
Hey Kenzie, you think your dad is nuts yet?
He's always nuts.
Man, Colorado had a lot of snow this past year. Imogene Pass actually had just opened about a week prior to our trip out there in late July. The waterfalls were in full display almost everywhere you looked. Nearly all the trail was either dirt, rock, or carved into the rock, but there was a couple of these bridges. Here were two on the first half of the ascent. The one on the left was the first bridge we came across. The one on the right was the last one before we got to the mining settlement at the halfway point. But pretty cool to go over. About 1 o'clock off the hood here, you can see Tomboy. Great little old mining ruins you can explore responsibly. But really, this is where you start to notice the zone transition where you're starting to go above the tree line. If you do your research correctly, you'll learn about the Alpine tundra and the need for you to not walk all over the place and traipse all over this fragile plant life. Please read up on this. Again, we want to enjoy this for our generations and generations to come. So read up on all of the rules that you should be following up in this area so we can all continue to enjoy this beauty and not contribute to the bad stereotypes. While we didn't encounter too much traffic, there was a pretty large group in front of us that had come from all over the Midwest to wheel together. Probably 20 or 30 rigs. I know who this group is, and I'm not going to really rat them out publicly in this video, but I'm bringing them up as an example to everybody. You are going to see bad behavior as you're on these trails. Contributing to the bad stereotypes that continually threaten the trails from opening each year is all of our duties to say something. For instance, this group took it upon themselves to take trophies like rocks and timbers from Tomboy and leaving waste, quote unquote, behind in the ruins. Shame. Call me a nerd, but remember your sunscreen, ladies and gentlemen. As you start up the final third of the climb up to the pass from Telluride, the road gets rockier and you're clearly above the tree line now. It's still a pretty tame road all in all. But even I got caught lifting a tire off the road in a poorly chosen line, we'll call it. Oh, here it comes. And tip! Whoops! Clunk. Watching the San Juan Mountain Facebook group in the months running up to our trip, I knew they got a lot of snow. but holy heck, you don't get the scale of how much snow they got and how much is left until you get here. This is taller than the Jeep. On the last roughly half mile of the pass, it just gets deeper and deeper. A shout out again to all of the public works county bulldozer drivers that cleared this stuff so we all could enjoy this. Thank you, thank you. Finally, the pass. We found an off-the-trail, yet not on the Alpine Life parking space, past the sign here, to park, enjoy some snacks, and take it all in. Again, these videos don't even do half the justice to this place. The only way to experience this is in person. Go. Enjoy yourself. On the way out, I passed an awesome guy in a side-by-side that offered to take our group picture. A few quick snaps, and we're on our way down the other side to Ouray. Descending toward Ouray, there were some small rockier places with a few small drops. Bit more snow, but strangely more traffic coming up from Ouray.
We got 5 coming.
Can we push this one?
Yep, push the one on the side over there, at the top.
There is 5 coming.
Just hang her up, that's it.
We turned a corner, and ahead was a massive snow wall, and the spot there about 11 o'clock on the hood, where you see a bunch of rigs always posed on the edges for pictures before the final descent down past the tree line. Looking over the road here was a little nerve-wracking. It just went straight down. Now, you'll see that little landing is completely clogged with vehicles. They're all waiting to get up to the edge for their pictures and hanging around. Also, you'll find out in a second that there's about 14 or 15 other rigs coming up, and they're all about to cram into that same area. So, as you're taking this trail, just be a little mindful. I mentioned earlier, always watch where your pullouts are, and for us, it was to have a radio handy to make sure we're communicating with people in our group so we don't end up absolutely pinned.
There was another 2 that were coming in after the 2 I saw, and I don't know if there's more coming in after that.
Okay, Wampa, when it's your turn, you want to back down and then start, and then Lori back down and start, and then all back up the way we came, and then Rob.
As soon as I saw a break in the action, I pulled out of my little pull-out spot and raced down to the bottom to be able to block the traffic to try to let some of the people off of that, because I look back in the rearview mirror and they're just packing and packing and packing up on that little ledge. Out of this entire trail, that was the most nerve-wracking part of the descent. Firmly below the tree line now, the trail gets easier and easier, even with this little river crossing. It turns more into a groomed forest road until you get to Camp Bird. Turning east, for us it was a right, to take Camp Bird Road down to Ouray is the direction we took. But on a future trip, if you take a left or go west at this intersection, it takes you out to Governor Basin, Sydney Basin, both of which are decently challenging trails. You have Yankee Boy, Mount Sneffels, which is a Colorado 14er, and points west and north. They're all great hiking trails past kind of the Governor Sydney Basin Yankee Boy area, because there's no motor vehicles allowed past that. So if you're looking to do a little hiking while you're out on the trip, that's an awesome area that is highly recommended by a number of groups that's west of this intersection.
We were passing through Camp Bird.
I wonder if people still live in these houses.
Having fully exited Imogene Pass and Camp Bird Road, we find ourselves on a quick mile on 550 and then dumped into downtown Ouray. With limited or no facilities on Imogene, we took the opportunity for some restroom breaks and lunch. Daylight was burning though, and we had a lot we wanted to get done today before we headed north, so no rest for the wicked. I had mentioned in the first video of this series, the only regret I had on this trip was underestimating the amount of time that these trails take, especially with traffic. We had wanted to take the entire Alpine loop starting at noon, but yeah, that wasn't happening. So we decided to go south on 550 to Mineral Creek, which is right here, take that to Engineer Pass as far as the Alpine connector, take that down to Animas Forks, and then come out via California, Hurricane, and Corkscrew passes, and then head north to our eventual destination, Avon, to take on Holy Cross City the next day. Yes, it was a long day. I had read that Mineral Creek was a little more challenging than the other more popular trails in the area. That was definitely correct. Nothing like our Iron Range Park back home in Minnesota, but this trail definitely gave us some smiles. I've heard the saying, if you don't like the weather in Colorado, just wait 5 minutes. That was definitely true. We started to get a little bit of rain coming in here to Mineral Creek, but it was short-lived and it dried up again pretty quick. This section was a little sketchy. As you can see, there is definitely a Clissus ledge road, and it is a absolute dead straight drop there on the passenger side on the right side of the screen here. And we had a little bit of oncoming traffic come in here that wasn't watching, and we met actually here on this one-lane road, had to back up a little bit and make it happen, but smiles and cooperations go all the way.
Who did you order the rocks?
I think that was my dad.
That was your dad?
I told you he was nuts.
He's nuts.
He's not just nuts one time, he's nuts all the time.
One thing that always bugs me on trails as I'm traveling around doing these is the creation of secondary trails or bypass trails or widening of the trails. I always try to stay as much as I can on the main part. Now, as we came up to the fork here between Engineer and Poughkeepsie, Poughkeepsie unfortunately was closed. They opened it like 3 days after we were after we had left, but gates were closed, and we didn't want to go down too deep in there because we know we needed to come right back out. So back up Engineer we went. We got definitely much happier with this trail as we went up further here. Here you see me going left to stay on the intended trail, and a little rocky, a little climby, little tire slippy here, just right there. But yeah, this trail did not disappoint past Poughkeepsie here.
Kind of a
One
busy
thinks,
trail.
how on God's green earth, it's like you see a turtle up on a fence post. How did they get here?
I actually found a post on this on the San Juan's Facebook group. Somebody, I think this was a rental, somebody had taken it through the Alpine loop and got, unfortunately, tracked down Engineer here. They made it down to this point, but had completely gutted the underbelly and the airbags had deployed. They just abandoned the car and walked away. I think that's what happened, but don't hold me to that. Either way, it was just like a turtle on a fence post. You don't know how it got there, and you don't know how it's getting down. So Mineral Creek had turned back into Engineer Pass by this point, so the roads had smoothed out. This was more of the predictable type of road you'd see on the rest of the Alpine loop with a little variation. So we just kind of tooted around and found our way to the Alpine connector to take it south to Animas.
Alright, I cannot help myself. I love caves.
Just for the record, that wasn't a cave. It was a shallow, excavated tunnel opening with bear scat in it.
This is the bottom of the Alpine connector. There's a bunch of traffic up here.
Oh, it kind of looks like a...
Animas Forks being kind of a intersection for this part of the Alpine loop. Man, there was a lot of traffic. Just watch yourself. Side-by-sides, 4x4s, everything. The rest of the day was looping back to 550 via California, Hurricane, and Corkscrew passes. Also passing the southern trailhead for Poughkeepsie and Lake Como. Absolutely gorgeous. You can see that single red Jeep off to the right of your screen, right in front of the lock gate to Poughkeepsie. The rest of the drive was pretty tame. The west side of Corkscrew Pass lived up to its name. We have a roller coaster near here called the Corkscrew. Up, down, left, right, with some gnarly steep switchbacks just beyond the pass. But other than that, that wraps the second day we had out there. Again, underestimated how much time it would take to actually run these trails, but even if you follow the same plan that we did, there's plenty to see, and it is just beautiful. These videos and pictures just do not do it justice. Thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe to see more content like this, and then let me know in the comments what you thought about this video and what other types of content that you'd like to see.